In today's video, I'm going to be breaking down the sales process that you should be using on a daily basis in order to scale your business to $50,000 per month in 2025. And we're going to be covering three main topics in today's video. First, it's going to be the CRM that I use, how to structure your CRM and how to organize it. Then from there, I'm going to break down the sales process that you need to use. So once you get on the phone with someone, how you should structure that sales call. What are those 3 points that you include in the sales process to tap into emotion, build value, and have a 80 to 90% conversion rate. That's what I have on my sales calls. And then on top of that, I'm also going to cover the follow-up process as well. Follow-up is where a lot of people miss out on a lot of money in the business. So I'm going to break down that whole process, call consistency, how to properly follow up, and everything like that. So that being said, let's go ahead and jump right into the first point, which is going to be our CRM. So obviously before this, you're going to have your marketing strategy. And when it comes to marketing, you can either do paid advertising, Google, organic, word of mouth, all sorts of different ways that you can advertise. Regardless, you need to make sure that every single lead that you're working with is always imported into your CRM. So if you're running ads, they need to be automatically imported into your CRM. You should get a text notification every time someone comes through. That way you know when a lead comes through so you can call as quickly as possible. And if you're advertising through word of mouth, any sort of organic where it doesn't automatically import, then you need either you or someone in your business who can basically go in and manually input all of these leads into your CRM. That way you're keeping track of every single lead. And you can keep track of the stage of every single lead. And later on, we'll break down more of the CRM and how to actually structure that when it comes to your follow-up process. So again, CRM, lead comes in, lead comes into the CRM. Then from there, as soon as it comes in, that lead needs to be called, ideally within the first 5 minutes. Now, if you can call this lead within the first 30 seconds, that's even better, because those first few minutes are when those leads are going to be the hottest. They're never going to be as hot and as interested as those first few minutes, because let's say someone fills out your lead form or they show interest, they turn into a lead. Maybe you take an hour to call them back. Maybe they showed interest when they were on their lunch break. Now, an hour later, you call them, they're busy in work or they're busy at work. And now you're trying to constantly follow up, and it's just not going to be as high of a response rate because they're not as interested. If it was an ad, your ad caught their attention, whatever you had in there piqued their interest, they were really interested, wanted more information. So they're relying on your sales call to basically, you're relying on your sales call to continue to pique their interest more and more, qualify them, tap into their emotion, build value, give them an irresistible offer. That's how you get people to move forward right away. But it starts with how soon you call that lead. If you're waiting an hour to call a lead, you're not setting yourself up for success. Your answer rate is going to be super low. So as soon as you get a lead, call them within the first 30 seconds or 5 minutes, ideally 30 seconds. So you call them, you have two options. They can either answer or they cannot answer. In this case, we'll break down, once a lead answers, what that sales process looks like that we're going to take them through. And very first step in a sales call is obviously before or after introducing yourself. When it comes to introducing yourself, you always need to have very, very little obligation, like low time frame that you're basically asking for. I always like to introduce myself. Hey, this is Nick with so and so. Saw you fill out a lead form. Was wondering if you have 2 minutes where I could just ask a couple questions, get you an accurate quote. By me asking for just 2 minutes, now it's a higher chance that they're going to be okay with that and want to actually talk to me more because they're thinking it's only 2 minutes. But once I'm on that call, if I need to, I'm going to take it 15 minutes because my goal is to just pique their interest in the beginning. If I have their interest, they'll continue to listen on until they lose interest, basically. And we don't really want them to lose interest. We want them to basically get off the phone once they close. So always start out by introducing yourself, ask for 2 minutes in order to get you an accurate quote, or in order to get you more information, or in order to get you pricing, whatever it is. Then from there, they agree to it. And that's when you start step one, which is your qualifying. So when you qualify, this is basically just when you're asking questions. And this should take up around 3 to 5 minutes. Obviously, it depends on what you're selling. But if you're in like the service-based business, selling detailing products or anything like that, or detailing services or anything like that, it should take about 3 to 5 minutes. And your goal in step one when asking these questions is to figure out why this prospect needs your service or product, why they want it, and why it's important to them. Then from there, you're basically trying to find their desired outcome that they're shooting for from your service. So you're basically going to be the vehicle that's going to get them to that desired outcome. And by doing this, it's basically going to tap this sale into their lead's emotion. They're going to be emotionally attached to it, which is going to make them want it more than before. Because now they really understand why they need it, why they want it, and why it's important to them, because they're basically explaining it to you. When you're asking these questions, I like to ask more open-ended questions. I want to make sure I'm in control of the call, I'm guiding it, but I want them to sell themselves in the beginning. So maybe one of the first questions I'll ask is like, hey, well, like, what made you really reach out in particular regarding this service? And that's like the first open-ended question I'll ask, because they'll start to sell themselves. They'll start to talk, open up a little bit. Oh, I had a vehicle in the past and the paint got really damaged when I went to trade it in. The car started to depreciate a little bit. So I just want to make sure that doesn't happen again. So again, you're starting to kind of figure out what's important to them. And then you want to continuously ask those more open-ended questions to figure out really what it is that they're looking for. Once you understand that, once you ask enough questions to where you have a good understanding of their situation, what they want, why they need it, why it's important to them, then that's when we go into step 2 of our sales call. And step 2 is basically when you build value on a sales call. Right now, if you run into the issue where people are saying that your price is too expensive, or there's someone else in the area who's cheaper than you, or oh, maybe I'm just not interested, or oh, I need to think about it. A lot of the times it's because you're messing up with step 1 and step 2. So step 2 is honestly one of the most important parts, because you need to basically switch their mindset to where your prospects are looking at your service based on the value they're getting out of it, as opposed to the price that they're paying for it. So if you build no value and you have more of an order taker vibe, like when you're selling someone, an order taker is basically like they call or you call them and they're like, oh yeah, I want this service. And you're like, okay, well, we have this service, and this service. This one includes this includes this, and this is priced at this is priced at this. You're just providing the information. There's no selling, there's no value building. Then what happens is you're going to get a lot more people who don't necessarily like they're not really looking at it out of the value they're getting. They're looking at it about the price. They're looking at which one fits within my budget, because you're not building value. So you're gonna have a lot more people that said they want to think about it, because also your sales process isn't as clear, simple, and straight to the point. What I always do, step 1, I ask the questions. So by 5 minutes into the call, I'm going to have a really good understanding of that prospect. I'm going to know exactly what they want, kind of what they can afford, and what service I should pitch them on. Then from there, I'm going to recommend them one service. Again, it kind of depends on what you're selling, but in most cases, I'll recommend one service. Based on everything you just said, there's a couple different routes that we can go, but there's one in particular that I think would really work best for you. If it works for you, I can kind of just run through it, run through what it would include, and I mean, see if it's something that you're even interested in. Does that sound good to you, or does that work for you? And they'll say yes. And then from there, I'm going to basically build value. I'm going to recommend a service. I'm going to build the value based on what they told me was important to them. So again, let's say that you're selling a paint protection film for a vehicle. So you'll say, like I said, a couple different routes that we can go, but really in your situation, our full front paint protection film option is going to be the best, just because you mentioned how important it was to protect the car from the rock chips. Your last car, you had a bit of a depreciation when you're going to trade it in. You don't really want that to happen again. Since you're using the car for this, like whatever they tell you, I wouldn't recommend full body necessarily. You don't really need that. Instead, I'd recommend the full front, and that's going to include the front bumper, the hood, the fenders, the mirrors, whatever else you're going to include in there. And just basically give a brief rundown of that one service, simplify it, but make sure that it correlates to what was important to them. And that's basically how you're going to build the value. This is the best option when it comes to protecting the rock chips, like you mentioned, are so important to you. But then also give them those extra glamour shots as well. On top of that, this is also going to add a layer of protection on the vehicle, so you don't have to worry about any sort of fading paint. If for some reason you were in a small fender bender, a lot of the times, like any sort of paint transfer, you just peel the PPF right off, never really gets through the paint. So you don't have to worry about a nick on the Carfax. You don't have to worry about the car being in the shop, getting resprayed, nothing like that. Invest a little bit up front to make sure that you have more of that preventative maintenance. You don't have to worry about anything getting damaged or happening to it. If something does happen, very easy. You just peel it off, you get it replaced. Super simple. And also, no nick on the Carfax, no depreciation on the vehicle. On top of that, it's also self-healing as well. So if you do get any scratches, put out in the sun, a couple hours, the heat, it'll make those scratches go away. Again, makes it super simple to maintain, and you never really have to worry about anything happening to the vehicle. So you'll notice when I'm building value, the value is built off of those glamour shots. It's not built off of my installation process. I'm not going to try and build value based on, yeah, so we have the car in, it's going to take a couple of days, and we're going to do this and this and this and this. Like, people don't care about that because that should be included in the service anyways, especially if you're charging premium. Like, you should always have, you should already have the best installation, the best products, the best, like, everything already. So you don't need to sell people on that. Instead, sell them on the glamour shots. There's a saying, it's like sell the vacation, or like sell the destination, not the flight that it takes to get there. So it's the same thing. You're just selling the end result, because the process should always be included anyways. Once you build value, though, you always want to make sure that that's actually what they want. So let's say that it's been a couple minutes. I've recommended the package. I've tapped it into their emotion. I've built the value. Then what I'll say is, based on everything I just said, does that even sound like something that you'd be interested in? And you want to pause. You want to take your time. You want to stutter a little bit. Act like a real person. Be genuine, and then see what they say. If they say no, then figure out where you lost them and pivot. And then from there, repitch, see if it's something they're interested in. If they say yes, then that's when you go to the offer. But let's say the first time I was like, is that something that you'd even be interested in? And they say yes, then you'll say, okay, perfect. I mean, if it works for you, I can go over pricing, and then from there we can kind of look at the schedule and see when we can get you in. Does that work? And a lot of times they'll say yes. And then now you've accomplished step 1, step 2, and then now you go to step 3. So step 3, this is your offer. I like to pitch irresistible offers to make the sale a little bit easier. You don't always have to do this, but I like to do it. Again, just makes it a little bit easier. And the way this looks is, so like I said, you're going to get this, this, and this out of the service. Typically, something like this we do charge $3,500 for, but I do have a last minute offer running right now. Sale ends later today. We have a couple spots left. If you want to move forward today, like while we're on the call, I could do it for $2,650 instead, and then just sit there and pause. Don't say anything. Just let them reply, and it's going to put a little bit of pressure on them. They'll either reply saying, okay, like, when can you get us in? So they'll progress the sale, or they'll reply with their objection. And if that's the case, then you'll handle the objection. So with the offer, you're not necessarily discounting your price, you're just restructuring it. So like, let's say that you normally charge $2,650 for that service, then you're not going to say normally we're priced at $2,650, but if you move forward today, it's $1,650, because now you're losing $1,000. Instead, you're going to say normally we're priced at $3,500 or $3,650. But if you move forward, we'll do it for $2,650. But then the thing is if they actually try to move forward, like say they don't want to move forward that day, they come back 2 days later to move forward, then charge the higher price. So that way that it actually holds value. That offer actually holds value. Otherwise, there's no value to it. And again, there's not really going to be any urgency. But you can use that offer in the future when following up to try and re-spark interest. So that's the 3-step process, like our 3-step sales process that I use. If I were you, I'd recommend taking notes on this, writing it down. Write down a list of good questions to ask. Write down the structure of how to properly build value, and then write down like your offer. And usually about like under 10% of sales come from this. So it comes from your like calling them, very first answer, and then they move forward. Like under 10% come from the very first answer. Majority of your closes and clients are actually going to come from your follow-up. So for example, you call a lead, let's say that there's no answer, 44% of people don't call a second time. So there's already a ton of people who are missing out on a bunch of leads from doing this. And I guarantee a lot of people watching this are guilty of this. They call a lead, maybe they're busy, maybe you're doing the service delivery, or you don't feel like calling. If you want to scale, it doesn't matter. Find the time you need to call. Otherwise, it's going to be very challenging to be profitable and scale to $50,000 a month. So in this topic, we'll start to go over more of the follow-up process, what that follow-up looks like. So you call the lead, no answer. Then from there, this is really when you're going to start using your CRM. And in the link in the description of this video, I'm attaching a link to a CRM. If you don't already have one, or if you do have one and it's not set up, I want you to click the link in the description. I want you to set up that CRM. And then under that link, I have a free training on a video that breaks down how to set up your CRM and kind of introduction of like how to use the CRM. So if you don't have one currently, or if you have one and you don't use it, click the link in the description, set up that CRM, and then click the link underneath that and watch that video of how to properly set it up. So usually what we're using the CRM for is organizing our leads, like basically storing them, organizing them, and then using it for our follow-up. Now, you call a lead, no response. What you need to do is for the first 30 days, this is when they're in follow-up stage 1. So those leads need to be called every single day for the first 30 days minimum. So this is daily follow-ups. Like I mentioned, the first 5 minutes is when those leads are the hottest. But for more of like a long-term perspective, the first 14 days is really when those leads will be the most interested. After 14 days, their interest is slowly going to start to fall off. They're not going to remember you as much. They're not going to be as interested anymore. They've seen so much other stuff on social media where they don't really remember your service as much. So the first 14 days is really when you want to focus heavily on the follow-up. Your goal when following up is to provide value. Most people go wrong because when they're following up with prospects, the way they follow up is super boring, super baseline, and it blends in with everybody else. So it's like, hey, so-and-so, this is Nick. Try giving you a call, no answer. Shoot me a call back when you get a chance. And like text would be like similar thing, or hey, still interested in this service? Those follow-ups are terrible. Like it's nobody's gonna or you're gonna have a low conversion rate with that because you blend in with everybody else. Instead, provide value. One of the ways I provide value is through content on social media, or by you can send a free training or something like that. So I'm always trying to provide value. The way you can provide value is if someone inquired about, let's say it was ceramic coating on a vehicle. Then what you do is the next ceramic coating you have in, take a video of it and provide information about what you're doing to it. Okay, this is the correction we did before and after. This is after applying the ceramic coating. You can see how much shinier the vehicle is. You can see the hydrophobic properties. Take a video of this and send it to the prospects that you're still trying to follow up with because you're providing value. And you can also pitch like last minute openings as well. So you can pitch last minute openings, or you can like repitch those irresistible offers. But regardless, you need to follow up with these leads every single day for the first 30 days. Some days leave a voicemail, some days leave a text, some days send a video like providing information. Some days just call, don't leave anything. Make sure you mix it up. And usually 80% of your sales will come from this stage within the first 30 days of following up. Where stage 2 and stage 3, it is a bit lower, but by continuously following up with these prospects, if you close extra clients here and there, it's just an easy way to increase your revenue, increase your profit margins, and basically pick up on some potentially lost deals. So let's say that it's been 30 days, you're following up with the prospect, no answer, they go to stage 2. This is now from day 30 to day 90. And instead of daily follow-ups, it's now following up 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Same thing, provide information, provide irresistible offers. Still no response. Then they go to stage 3. This is when the prospects get followed up with once a week. I would say like every Monday. So follow up once a week, very casual follow-ups. These can be like holiday follow-ups, holiday specials, information on your services here and there, like some videos here and there. More very casual follow-ups. Just really trying to like make sure that they remember that you're there. Like a holiday follow-up, wishing someone a Merry Christmas, wishing someone a Happy Thanksgiving, or like following up, pitching or informing them on your Christmas special that you have running. Little things like that will just help remind them that you're still there. Maybe pique their interest. Maybe they just got a Christmas bonus. All these little things that can potentially pop up just from being very persistent and following up from month 4 until month 12. And if at any point these prospects answer, so let's say you're stage 3, the prospect answers, then what you do is you move them back to stage 1, as if they answered and showed interest. Move them back to stage 1, and then you repeat the whole process. So you want to be calling a minimum on a low end of say 40 people a day. Ideally a bit more, just depends on the business, your lead flow, everything like that. But you need to be very persistent, and you use your CRM to basically keep track of this. That's why it's so important to get that set up. Without it, you're going to miss out on so much money just because you're not going to have a way to properly organize your leads. So again, description of this video, I'll have a link to the CRM that you can set up, and I'll also have a link to a free training that you can watch, and that'll basically set up or go over just how to properly use a CRM, and it'll kind of show how to set up these different stages. So that's it for this video. I hope it was very valuable, give you some clarity as far as what you should be doing with your sales process in order to properly scale to 50,000 per month in 2025. But that's it for this video. I will see you guys in the next one.